Ragnarok. So Thor Ragnarok is directed by Taika Waititi and is written by Eric Pearson, Craig Kyle, and Christopher Yost. It stars Chris Hemsworth, Cate Blanchett, Tom Hiddleston, Mark Ruffalo, and Tessa Thompson. I was a really big fan of the first Thor movie, and for a lot of people it's actually one of the least favorites. There's always been some talk about Kenneth Branagh's questionable choice to bring Thor down to earth, no pun intended, but I really think that this allowed for some really heartfelt moments and character-building moments that we needed for Thor, even though a lot of people consider Thor to be one of the least interesting of the Avengers. So without further ado, let's just talk about the characters. Thor has been away from Asgard for quite some time, and upon his return, he discovers some truths to some of the cliffhangers that were left from the last film, as well as some new ones that take himself and Loki among the stars. That's not to mention Hela shows up, forces them out, and goes hella on Asgard. So then they must get back home to stop her. I'm not going to elaborate on it because it's already been done again and again and again. Thor is hilarious in this movie, and so is everyone else. But there's a good enough balance there. Hulk is great, and it's awesome to see him return. Hela, I am disappointed to say, is just like every other MCU villain. Forgettable. That's not to say that she doesn't have some great moments, but if Cate Blanchett is not allowed to give us a great villain, then it's safe to say that we can just expect forgettable villains always in the MCU. I'm done. Jeff Goldblum's Grandmaster, though, was perfect. I loved the addition of his character. He was hilarious. But I don't want you guys to think that all we got was a funny fest in this movie. It actually worked to the film's advantage, cultivating these relationships that we're already familiar with, as well as some new ones. Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie is another excellent female character to add up. Chalk it up to the board. She's got a great theme song, too. Korg. I can't do it. It's unavoidable. The movie's funny, okay? There's a lot of humor, but it loosens up the characters that we're already very comfortable with, and that's not a bad thing. The acting. Everyone is great in this movie, so let's just talk about Jeff Goldblum. After last summer's Independence Day 2 dumpster fire, still recovering from that, where we did not get the Jeff Goldblum that we have been waiting for, Taika was like, Jeff, just be Jeff Goldblum. And we got it. We can make that happen. I'll work with the Lord of Thunder and should be great. So good. I love him. Also, the director plays Korg. Yay, directors that can act. The dialogue. Unlike Guardians of the Galaxy, where some jokes fall flat, I can't think of a single one that did in this movie. They say that it was all improvised. That's hearsay. Nonetheless, really impressive. The story. I don't want to say that this is the most original Marvel movie that we've gotten, but if I did make such a statement, then I would say that it's because it's the most bold. This film stands on its own because it's not afraid to remove certain staples of the Thor franchise. With explanation and purpose, of course, Taika was not afraid to kill off characters if it was the only logical outcome in a situation. He also wasn't afraid to remove certain very important and essential escapes that would have otherwise predictably saved our heroes in the past. It's the best way I can say it without spoiling anything. That being said, you may remember me saying that this film has a good enough balance when it comes to the humor. I say enough because it does overstep its bounds a little bit. I mean, if you're going to be so bold as to kill off characters and to hang so much in the balance to try our characters and to make us care about them, then there needs to be enough respect as well. Don't get me wrong, the humor is great, it gets me every time. But if someone farts in the middle of church, yeah, I'm gonna laugh, but it's still disrespectful. I'm not saying that Thor Ragnarok is a fart in the middle of church. I'm just saying it was pinching it. I'm 12. Predictability. This is the most unpredictable Marvel film we have gotten, hands down. It didn't have any rules. It was willing to lose and gain whatever it needed to in order to give us something fresh. That may sound pretentious to you, but I promise you that it was for the characters and story's own good. I praise this movie for it. The morale of the film, all I can say is there's no harm in just going and having some good wholesome fun. You want to escape from life for 2 hours? Go watch this movie. Let me make this perfectly clear. I was so disappointed in Thor Dark World. And the reasons certainly are not limited to the unnecessary absence of Patrick Doyle's beautiful score from the first film. I mean, Marvel's scores and musical themes are lacking as it is, so, if you remove the only good one, there's really no other way to go but down. Why do that to yourselves? So 2 years ago, when Thor Ragnarok was first announced, I immediately hopped on Twitter and I tweeted Patrick Doyle, if you do not return in some way for Thor Ragnarok, I'm leaving the MCU. Call me ridiculous. I loved the score from the first Thor movie. This is how much I loved it. Wonder Woman has a memorable score, Superman has a memorable score, a couple, and then Batman has a couple of memorable scores, even though not one necessarily from the DCEU. And of course, Patrick Doyle didn't respond. And we got 80s music. Because 80s and 80s. And don't get me wrong, I loved it. I consider myself a retro kid, so I appreciate it. But I listened every second of this movie, every moment, hanging on to what little hope we had of hearing that beautiful score. We get to the last scene, and still no Thor theme. My heart sank, and then... yes! It happened, and I cried. On that note, Thor Ragnarok is the best Marvel movie we have gotten since the Avengers. So I'm going to put it at number 30. Thor Ragnarok. If you're a kid, go see this movie. If you're an adult, go see this movie. Everyone should see this movie. It's a complete blast. And tell me what you thought about it below, because I absolutely care to know. And to get more face explodingly awesome reviews from yours truly, then go ahead and hit that daggum subscribe button and that little bell on the side so that way you get notifications of such face explodingly awesome reviews. And I will see you next time on MovieSlayer.
Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom.